So one of the things that chiropractors often struggle with when they first start their practice and early in practice is patient retention. A lot of times chiropractors will have patients that come in for just a couple visits and then they leave and then they find themselves constantly trying to replenish the patient base. Nobody sticks through their initial care, or very few people stick through, and that is not really great for the patient, and it's also not really great for the chiropractor. Now, there are things that chiropractors have done over the years to try to solve this problem. Things like contracts, or maybe contracts is a strong word, but they'll have people sign like written agreements or something like that that make it think it's a contract or feel like it's a contract, even though I know that they can't be enforced. Prepayments, guilt tripping has been popular, where chiropractors will make patients feel bad because they're not taking their health seriously. And I don't advocate any of that stuff. What I would suggest that we do is talk about where does the chiropractor's patient education fall into this, helping the patient understand the values of being a patient beyond just feeling better and maybe a visit or two, and then the actual onboarding process and what that actually looks like. So that's what we're going to unpack in this podcast. If you guys don't know me, my name is Jerry. I am a former chiropractor. I help chiropractors now with websites and local search. If you'd like help with your website, or you'd like me to look at your website and show you how you compare to other chiropractors in your area from a local search standpoint, you can request a free website and SEO evaluation at rocketchiro.com. If you are wanting to go beyond the podcast, you just want some help, there's a lot of chiropractors I work with over the years that are just getting started, or chiropractors that have been out for a little while and feeling stuck. So if you want to go beyond the podcast, get some additional training, get some access to me, get some additional help, My Next Step Training is a great place that you can find that. So you can check that out at rocketchiro.com. So I think that there is something that happens with chiropractors in this realm, especially with evidence-based chiropractors and chiropractors that are maybe just outside of the extreme vitalism of chiropractic. What chiropractors tend to do when they want to avoid that extreme vitalistic side of chiropractic is they tend to go too far the other way, where they don't want to be perceived as someone who, I don't want to be the chiropractor that once you go, you always have to go. Like, I don't want to be that guy. And so sometimes they'll make the mistake of not having structure and not having recommendations in their office. They sort of keep the plan in their head, but they don't really inform the patient and get them on board with what they're doing, because they don't want to be perceived as someone who's trying to sign them up or getting someone to stick around forever. And that's definitely throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, that's, when it's obviously you could do that wrong, or where you can just, every single person needs to come in 75 times a year and get adjusted once a week for the rest of your life. And once a patient, always a patient, forever a patient, every week a patient. Like, obviously that's, I don't advocate that, but throwing out the idea that you should have some sort of structure, some sort of plan, some sort of care recommendation, and throwing that out completely, you're basically undercutting any potential of having good patient retention. And I would even argue you're probably undercutting the possibility of having the best patient results, because if you're just allowing the patient to decide when they come in and when they don't come in, you're just doing pain management. You're just a fancy aspirin. And that's okay if that's how you want to practice. Like, I don't really care. If you want to practice chiropractic that way, then you can't complain about retention, because if all you're going to do is, hey, if you feel like coming in, come in. If you don't feel like coming in, don't come in. If you're hurting, I'll take care of you. If you're not hurting, whatever, do whatever you want. In that case, the conversation about retention there's no foundation for that conversation. You just have to accept what you get. But I don't think that most chiropractors fall into that category. And so I would say there's probably 4 levels to chiropractic as far as like how people can use chiropractic. Now, before I get into that, because I'll just go through these real quick and then I'll kind of explain to you where I think we should fall as chiropractors. And I'm not saying you're right or wrong for doing any of these, but these are 4 different approaches that you can have. You have to understand that if you let your patients to think what they're going to think, they are going to just assume that you're only doing pain management. Like, if I hurt, I go. If I don't hurt, I don't go. And once again, if that's how you practice, that's fine. But if it's not how you practice, it is going to be your responsibility as a chiropractor to educate them. And I'm not talking about brainwashing people or manipulating them or anything else, but you do have to tell them, hey, there's something beyond what you think that we're doing here that is part of the process. And if you don't take that seriously, and you don't make that part of your onboarding process of just introducing that concept to someone, you're just leaving them to think what they're going to think. And if that's the case, you're going to get what you get, which is people only come when they're hurting, so keep that in mind. So there's really 4 levels to chiropractic care. These are just something, I literally just wrote this down. So this is not any sort of formal thing you're going to find in a green book or some person that's way smarter than me that's come up with a better terminology. But I would say this, there's pain relief only. Then you have pain relief plus stabilization. I think this is where the bare minimum should be for the vast majority of chiropractors. What pain relief plus stabilization means is this. Hey, you want to feel better? I want you to feel better. But I also want to make sure that we're doing enough that you don't leave and then 3 days later it starts bothering you again. That's the conversation. Hey, I just want to make sure that we do enough here that you don't go 2 weeks, sneeze, and then end up, thinking you need to go to the ER or something like that because we didn't actually take care of it. We just band-aided it on the pain relief side of things. So I think that's the bare minimum, foundational starting point for educating people. Hey, there's something beyond just pain management here. And if we only focus on your pain, we're probably setting you up to have more problems down the road and quickly. This isn't going to last. You're going to be frustrated with chiropractic because it didn't work. And what actually happened is we just adjusted you once. It didn't have we didn't go through any sort of stabilization time or process. And as a result of that, you get what you get. Like we didn't actually do anything. We band-aided it and here we are. So pain relief is pain relief only. That is what it is. You feel bad, come in. You don't feel bad, don't come in. Next, you have pain relief plus stabilization. So we're going to adjust you, but we're also going to make sure that even after you're starting to feel better, there's some sort of making sure that what the changes we're making are more long-term and stable. Next, you have pain relief, stabilization plus maintenance. This is for people that have ongoing stressors that are continually causing the same problem. So like a truck driver, for instance, like you can adjust them, you can make sure they're stable, but they're going to go do the thing that hurt their back to begin with. Football players, baseball players, someone who's constantly stressing their body in the same way that caused the injury before, this person would need you talk to them about pain relief, stabilization, and maintenance. The reason every NFL team has a chiropractor is because those people constantly stressing their body in the exact same way. So you are constantly in this realm. You need ongoing care because of the ongoing stress that's on your body. It makes sense. Now, the other people that you would have this conversation with are people that have chronic problems. So people that fall into the category of, and I'd even throw myself in this category. Like I've had headaches since I was a teenager, and chiropractic has helped me tremendously with those headaches. For the most part, I don't have any sort of debilitating headaches or anything like that anymore. But as a result of that, if I were to stop chiropractic care altogether, it probably would be at some point I would start having those headaches on a regular basis again. So for me, being under chiropractic care is, obviously when I'm not feeling good, my back bothers me, I have a headache, like I want that pain relief. I also want to make sure that I'm doing enough that those adjustments are lasting and holding, which for me it happens a lot because I've been under care for a long time. So there's not a lot of ongoing stability that's there. But there's also a maintenance element to it where it's like I'm making sure that, hey, I'm going to stay on top of this so that I don't fall back in that pattern of having headaches and back pain. So the pain relief, stabilization, maintenance conversation happens with anyone who has ongoing stress or someone who's in a chronic pain situation. Last, you have like the weirdos, and the weirdos are pain relief, stabilization, maintenance, and wellness. This is a person who ultimately gets to the point where they're getting adjusted because they want to do it for their healthy lifestyle. I wouldn't even put myself in this category. I get adjusted because it helps me feel better and it helps me stay better. Like I don't have any sort of ideas about chiropractic that if I had no objective, I have no subjective benefit on my part that said that chiropractic is helping me, I wouldn't get adjusted. Like I'm just not that personality type. And I think when chiropractors, like there are kind of wellness chiropractors or people that are focused on that sort of idea that would make you think that there's a bunch of people out there that have this mentality. They want wellness. They don't. Like people want to feel better. And so I think that there are people out there who have a wellness mindset and they're going to do things where, they're going to take a bunch of supplements, whether they think it's helping them or not, or whether it's actually helping them or not, or there's any sort of subjective or objective reason to believe that it's helping them. But that's a small percentage of the population, but I did want to include it because there are people that fall into that category with chiropractic. So these four levels just sort of build on each other. It's like the low level and what everybody's at when you haven't educated them is just pain relief only. And I think that the starting point for your education needs to be to help them understand, hey, beyond pain relief, we want to make sure it's stable. And then if they're a candidate for maintenance care, say, hey, beyond stability, we probably want to stay on top of this on some level so that you're not falling back into this really bad spot that you are now. And the key to this is, and here's going to be our simple structure for better retention, is number one, you need to introduce these concepts to them, this pain plus concept. You need to introduce that to them at some point early in the conversation. I used to do this on day one, and I wasn't going to have a lengthy conversation. My goal was not to convince this person to believe in my philosophy. My goal was to introduce this concept early by saying, hey, you want to get out of pain? I want you out of pain. We both agree there. But where we may not agree is that I would like you to be stable enough that this doesn't come back right away so that you're not upset because chiropractic doesn't work or because you, or you think it's, that whatever you might think. So that was like the initial conversation. Sometimes right away, I'm introducing the idea of, hey, this has been bothering you for a long time. You might be a person in a situation who would actually benefit from ongoing chiropractic care. We're not going to worry about that right now. We just want to get you out of pain, but I just want you to understand that that is an element to what we're doing here is actually stabilize your body, get it stronger so that you don't hurt yourself rolling over in bed or you don't hurt yourself bending over to tie their shoe. The key to this is you want to make sure that when you educate people in this way that you're relating it to them. You don't give a generic explanation to everyone. You if this person comes in and they said, oh, I sneezed and hurt my back or I slept wrong, then you communicate to them the reason that this happened is because you had a janky back to begin with and you did something small that was the straw that broke the camel's back. This is an indication that your back is weak to begin with. And if we just get you out of pain and send you out into the world with a crappy back, you're going to sneeze and hurt yourself again. They may choose to continue to just do pain management, which in my office was fine. If you want to do that, fine. I don't care. But I want you to do it eyes wide open. And so if you want to have longer term retention, even just through your initial recommendations, whether that's 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, you want to make sure that they understand this concept that there's something beyond pain. So it's a pain plus introduction to them early in the process. Next, you want to make sure that you come up with a plan that everybody agrees on. I've talked about this on the podcast many times. I talk about this in my Next Step program. When you give your best recommendations, you want to ask the person, is this something you can do? Can you do this for the next 6 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months, whatever the thing is that you're recommending? And I don't have a canned generic recommendation for you. I'm just telling you that when you say, this is what I want to do over the next couple of weeks, and you should be telling them something. Don't just say like, hey, we adjust you today. Well, we'll see how it does. Let me know. I mean, if you do that, you're doing that, but just don't complain about retention. If you want to have retention, you need to have a plan. You need to take that leadership role and you need to say to them like, hey, this is what we're doing over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever the thing is you're comfortable with. Ask the person, is this something we can do? You want them to shake their head, nod. You don't need them to sign a document, but you need them to acknowledge that this is the plan. This is what we're doing. And if they say, no, I can't do that because I'm not in town that much. I don't have enough money. I don't have what. There's reasons why someone may not be able to do your best recommendation, but you need to get on the same page. And if you're going to do some modified version of what you would recommend, you need to make sure that you tell that person, this isn't ideal. This isn't how I would recommend we go about this, but let's give it a try, see how it does. Here's the possible downsides of that. If you're not coming in twice a week like I would like you to, it's possible that you may get an adjustment. You may feel better for a couple of days and then feel like you're back to square one because we're not really staying on top of it, breaking that habit like we want to. You could have that explanation with them. And as long as they are going into that decision eyes wide open and you started off with your best recommendations, you're in a good spot to have conversations down the road if does happen to be a problem. So introduce the idea of this pain plus idea right away. Come up with a plan that everybody agrees on. Third one is be flexible. I used to tell all my patients when I got done with my recommendations and we came to an agreement, I would say, if you do better than expected, we may see you less. If you do worse than expected, we may see you a little bit more. If you ever feel frustrated with your care, definitely let me know. And if I feel frustrated with how things are going, I'll let you know and we'll talk about that. Does that sound good? I want to be flexible, I want them to understand that I'm flexible, and I want them to know that if something were to change in their brain where what they're currently thinking, like what we've currently agreed to, is not what the plan anymore in their brain, I want them to talk to me about it. I want to have a doctor-patient relationship. I don't want someone to just like sign the contract and follow the recommendations. Maybe somebody does do better than you thought and you don't need to see them that much. Maybe someone does do worse than you thought and you kind of need to see them more. I like hedging my bets when it comes to stuff like that. And that's the conversation I'd have just real quick. I don't need to have a 30-minute conversation about it. Just so you know, if you do better than expected, I might see you less. If you do worse than expected, might see you more. If you ever get frustrated, let me know. If I ever get frustrated, I'll let you know. We'll have a conversation about it. Does that sound good? Yes. Great. Let's get started. Last is just have a follow-up plan. You need to have a short-term, long-term follow-up plan. I'm not really going to go into that on this podcast. I'm just going to mention it. Is if somebody misses an appointment, like what's the follow-up process? And then once someone discontinues care, like you're not going to see them for a little bit. Like if it's been 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, like what's the follow-up plan? You need to have a short-term plan for when someone misses an appointment when they're under active care. And then when someone drops off, if you really want to get reactivations, you need to have some sort of plan of touching base with them. And I'm not talking about harassing people or bugging them or whatever, but it's okay to touch base with someone and say, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. If there's anything we could do for you, let us know. Perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. But if you don't have a plan, you're going to either miss people because you just didn't realize you didn't reach out to them, or you're going to harass people because you don't realize that you've just contacted that person 18 times already and you just didn't realize you were doing it because you weren't following a plan. So just make sure you have a plan for follow-up. If you're doing those 4 things, you're introducing Pain Plus concept, you come up with a plan everybody can agree on, you're flexible, and you have a follow-up, like a retention plan, like some sort of what do I do when the person's not coming in? You're going to go a long way to help yourself with patient retention and have much fewer of these like 1 or 2 visits and they don't come in anymore. You'll have much less of that. Now, is it the only thing that you can do? No, of course not. There's other things that you can do, but I think this is a really good foundation for better retention through that initial part of care. All right, guys, I'm done. I'm out of here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. If you'd share this podcast with on your socials or with other chiropractors that aren't listening, I'd really appreciate that. If you want to leave a review, you can do an Apple Podcast or on Google. There's a link to our Google profile in the footer of rocketchiro.com. I think that is it. If you want me to look at your website and SEO, I'd be happy to do that. Request that on rocketchiro.com. I'm done. Talk to you later. See ya.